Hello, this is Dr. Wendy Rowley for the third episode of the series, The New Christ Connection. And I'm going to get out of the way and be the best channel I can for you and not interfere with the information. See you on the other side. Oh, good day to you, dearest beings of light. It is Aliene of Cosmic Service, Pleiadian Mother of Sound. Peace be with you, peace be with you, and peace be with you. In this fourth episode, just give us a sec because we forgot to count that we had already put one up. Let us just get this down. One, we shouldn't even bother with the numbers, but we don't have titles for these, so we have to use numbers. We had the first one all about the death Bardo. 1, 2, 3. This is the fourth, and we will keep numbers here. Sorry, it gets a little confusing when you do. We do production sort of in a series to keep the flow of the energy for the series the same. And it brings a succinct flavor into the series that makes it feel very connected, as opposed to if we did one this week. So this one doesn't go through a lot of formality with the outfit changing and all of the kind of facade of the videos, because she cares more about the quality of the information than the physical facade of what you see. But most people are looking at the physical facade. So it's important to know that about her. She does the best she can, but she's not a hairspray person or any of that fancy stuff. Okay, so the Death Bardo, fourth day. Now, the benevolent bands we spoke about, and Soul has called you home, and this one did some processing and got something out that she never could, because she started to let those tears out when she saw her mother's body being taken out of the apartment. And as she started to let that release come, the nurse came over and put her arm around her and comforted her. But that makes people go and pull it in. Unless the charge is so great, it'll come forward. But most people will pull it back in. So a great gift you can give someone when they are starting to grieve is leave them alone and let it get out. So we let her get that out because it had never gotten out, and it needed to get out. Because if it doesn't get out, what can flow through that channel? So that was important, to have that flow. So that had to come out. So don't hold back your grieving. Don't hold back your emotions of the sorrow and the loss you feel when you lose someone. But do know that they're okay and that you miss them. Okay, sorry for that, but we just wanted that said for someone who particularly needed to hear that in this video. And it wasn't her, it's someone else. Okay, so in the benevolent bands, there's a lot there. The benevolent bands are connected to 3 places. The benevolent bands are connected to the human consciousness grid. And now everything we're talking about in this video is in the outer periphery of the planet, in what some people call the noosphere. And it is where the collective consciousness, subconscious and unconscious of humanity is, around the periphery of the planet. And it's connected to the greater field, where you first come into the planet as a soul, and you're with all souls in the benevolence and grace and love of the Creator, out in the greater field. Then you come into the earth system and hook into the karma system and and you begin learning. And what you're learning is how to create in alignment for the greater good of all. It's basically what you're learning. So the benevolent bands go to, at the periphery of the planet, the human consciousness grid, which is your recording and your collection of benevolence. It's your recording of everything that's happening and the collection of benevolence. And it is evolutionary. The benevolent bands also go to what is called the interim Christ grid, or the interim soul grid. That is a change grid, and it connects to all 3 spaces: the human consciousness grid, the greater field, where your soul first comes and hooks in, and what we're going to talk about next is the Christ grid, or the mastery grid, or the soul mastery grid. But the interim Christ grid, or the interim soul creational grid, is a change place, and the benevolent bands go there. And the benevolent bands also go to what is people call the Christ grid or the soul mastery grid. And that's where all the high wisdom of the group collective is stored. It's basically the group golden Akash. But it is different because it also connects to higher wisdom that is beyond Earth. It connects to what are called the time capsules. And those are our experiences and wisdom and all the inventions and solutions we had from our enlightened planet. And it also connects to another portal that is not enlivened yet in your planet, but eventually it will be. And it is a portal that connects you to all the evolutionary enlightened planets. And at some point you get connected to that. And so there's now, because of the new connections that have already been made, there have been connections made between all these three grids and the greater field, such that there is two-way communication between each part and the whole now. And that is brand new. And that has happened between 1987 and now. And Magnetic Master Cryon and his group had a lot to do with that, if I may be so bold as to say that. And we work with them. So, and it's a soup. It's a soup of consciousnesses. We are individual, but we are group at the same time. We are more group than you are. And we work together with many, many other groups, and angels and archangels, and Arakai, large groups of consciousness of archangels who handle the national spirit, it is called. Much of this information is in the old information through Rudolf Steiner and some others, but a lot of their records have been destroyed, unfortunately. There was some good information that did get destroyed, but it's coming forward again. Okay, so back to that. So up in the noosphere, everything has been connected. So the field and the human consciousness grid for the first time are now connected. The interim Christ grid and the human consciousness grid always were connected, and the field and the interim Christ grid were always connected. And the interim Christ grid and the Christ grid were always connected. But now the Christ grid and the greater field are connected. So now you have a loop all the way through and from the greater field to each of these three grids. And that's new. And so the benevolent bands go to all three of these grids. But what connects the benevolent bands in these three grids to the greater field? It's a third band. It's simply called the change band. And it connects the two bands to its band and to the noosphere. These three bands are what people have referred to for ages upon ages as the music of the spheres. Because there's great bands, three great bands around your planetary system in its spirit body. And there are three great bands in the three. Now we have said in other videos, your higher self is individual, but it morphs into a group higher self and eventually a group higher self spirit body on the human consciousness grid that all of you share, and you evolve together in that. There's another group higher self spirit body on the interim Christ grid, and there's one out in the greater field, so that you all evolve together as a group. So get out of the way, this one. So the interim Christ grid and let's just let her get out of the way because she started to think. There she goes. So the interim Christ grid and the soul creational grid, the interim Christ grid is the soul creational grid, and the human consciousness grid and the field have a special connection to one of the bands now that wasn't there. And the outer band now has a special connection between the interim Christ grid, the Christ grid, or the soul creational grid, the soul mastery grid, and the greater field. This is brand new. There are two new great wheels that were never here before. So you have these wheels in three places, we started to say. You have them out in the greater field, up in the noosphere. You have them in the spirit, 3 spirit bodies that you all share, and you have them in your individual spiritual anatomy of your spirit body. And this is how healing, change, and evolution happen, by these great wheels. But now these wheels have been enhanced. And we're going to talk about that in the next video. But we wanted you to sort of start to percolate a picture, because these are new words and new concepts for many of you. And it's heady, and it's far out. So have fun contemplating and spiraling, and you can always, when you learn new information that's spiritual, you can always say, my higher self and soul integrate this information for the greater good of all. And that makes a profound effect that is different. And we suggest you all try that, including this one. All right, peace be with you, and you are dearly loved. Expect benevolence in all you do. We bid you adieu.